So today I'm speaking with Keegan Prue, who is hello and hi.
Hi.
Thank you for your time. I'm really looking forward to it. And so, Keegan, you have written an amazing book, which is called The IVF Dad, and I had the great pleasure to reading your draft, which was really great. So I had the opportunity to read it in advance. So that was really, really awesome. And I really loved it. So
Yeah.
I think it's
And your
gonna,
comments were so helpful, so I really appreciate it. They were really, really
uh,
useful.
well, I'm glad. I'm really glad. And I think this book is amazing and it's gonna help a lot of, a lot of people, not just guys, really. I don't think it's just for guys. And like from my point of view, because I really, I've been working in IVF for 10 years almost, and
Yeah.
there was like I couldn't see anything that was I don't know like not not like it wasn't correct or that was like that I could add anything or just tell you like this isn't really exactly how it is. So wow, like you know, I remember when I started working in IVF, I was so overwhelmed, so many things I had to learn, and I took me so much time to understand everything. And so
It's a
really,
lot. Yeah.
yeah, so really amazing. You did an amazing job.
Yeah.
That's
Well, that
what
was
I
the
want
best compliment because Blanca knows a lot about IVF and fertility treatment. So I was like doing a little happy dance when I heard that she
to.
gave her stamp
Yeah.
of approval. All the
Ugh,
information was accurate. So yeah.
yeah, it was. I was surprised. I was kind of expecting like, okay, let me check that,
Yeah.
I'm the expert here. Like, okay, let me. No, this is fine. This is right. This is really correct. So, I was surprised, but but really happily surprised and amazed. It was really awesome.
Yeah.
So today I would like to find out a bit more about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Maybe just real quick. So, what I really wanted to know is like what about your dad? Is he like you? I mean, you're
Yeah.
really, really supportive and kind, and I was kind of wondering what your dad is like.
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely feel like I'm in many ways like my dad. My dad is definitely, just tremendously supportive. It's funny, he was actually with us just this morning, helping out with Eliza, our daughter, who loves her Grampy, as we call him. But it's funny when friends who've known us for a long time see him now with Eliza, my daughter. They say, "Boy, that's exactly what he was like when you were little. Always right behind you on the playground, following you, helping you."
Yeah.
Time with you. And yeah, that was just a really special memory. And both my parents were wonderful in that way, just giving lots of time. But I think that is a big difference to have, a father and have that role model where he spent so much time with us just reading and going outside and exploring the trees and throwing rocks into streams and things like that. And yeah, I think it totally really helped me hopefully live up and be, the same very supportive person that I am now. So yeah, I'm very lucky in that.
Yeah, that's really lovely. I kind of thought so that there must have been like a dad that was like that. So thank you. Sorry, I'm just gonna go to my questions.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, and you, uh, I wanted to know a little bit more how what you were like as a kid. If you
Yeah.
were always like this, because from really what the conversations I had with you and the book, I know that you're really, really kind and empathetic. So I cannot picture you as a bully. So I don't think you were, but what were you like when you were little?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I think I was, pretty similar to what I am now. I have no shame in saying I was a pretty nerdy kid. I love to read, spent a lot of time at the library. My friends were very similar. You'd see us doing things like, going to the library and paging through all the different books. And, I was in band and we like to play video games and stuff like that. So we're just kind of nice nerdy kids. And I'm fortunate to have some close friends who still are close friends to this day. And now we're gone through all the stages of life. But yeah, I was a nerdy kid. I love to read. The earliest pictures of me are just always nose in a book, whether it was like the Three Little Pigs or some crazy nonfiction book from the library. I just loved to read, loved to do all those nerdy things, and still do. So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Some things change, and in my sort of non infertility and writing life, I work in education. I was an elementary school teacher, so younger kids,
Mhm.
7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and having been kind of in that space long enough where the students I taught 10 years ago are now graduating from high school and on to university. It's amazing how certainly some kids change, but a lot of times what you see when a kid is 5 or 6 years old, you can say, I know what you're going to be like when you're 20, 25. I can kind of tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I know about the nerdy part. Yeah, I was the same. I was the same. So,
Which
but
helps for fertility treatment because it helps because, as you said, there's a lot to know. So uh,
yeah.
I was
Um,
didn't faze me to take that time and look through different research studies and listen to a bunch of podcasts and do a bunch of reading and research because it was it wasn't fun because you're going through infertility, but at the same time it gave me that gave me that place to kind of direct that nerdiness and say, okay, I'm gonna like really dive into the research and learn what I can.
exactly. It is helpful to kind of want to learn and because there's a lot to learn.
A
There is.
lot, yeah.
Uh, and there was another one of my questions is was basically how much did you know about fertility and infertility before set on this journey? No, yeah,
Really, I say nothing, but I knew probably as much as the average kind of person
right,
does. I knew like the general idea of there's this thing called IVF. I probably would have said like, oh, that's the test tube baby thing, right? Or and
yeah,
may have known just the littlest amount. But I really came into this when we kind of launched into our fertility journey, really not knowing how it all worked, not knowing how many steps there are in the process of IVF or even IUI, not certainly not knowing anything about the different diagnoses or causes that can contribute to infertility, and definitely not understanding the different range of treatments. So there was a lot to learn, and that was a big part of our first few months of kind of coming to grips with the difficulties we were facing. Was I just spent a lot of time listening to podcasts and reading articles and reading blogs just to hear people's stories and learn what are the different causes of infertility, what are the different treatments for infertility. And that was so helpful because when we finally got to the point of going to the fertility
mm,
clinic, I kind of felt like I knew a little bit about what they were saying and what they were talking about, because I could definitely see how overwhelming that would be for patients if you don't kind of know the difference between IVF or IVF with ICSI or IUI or things like that. It could be really overwhelming. So I definitely recommend everybody, as best as you can, just listen to some podcasts if you're earlier in your journey, read some blogs, check out accounts on Instagram like Blanca's, where she's sharing a lot of useful information, because that's just going to help you feel more empowered, because there's a lot to know.
and also less alone, right? Because when when we set on this journey, we kind of feel like it's just me, or like is everyone around kind of popping out babies and I'm why not, why me, what's wrong? So and what could be wrong,
Really.
right? That's because we like, when I talk about we, I mean ladies, like we go to a gynecological appointments, everything's fine. So, so what could be wrong? And there's so many things. It is overwhelming. So definitely to find out more. And what I do, I always accompany my clients to the doctor's appointments. And sometimes I really, when the doctor says something, I have to kind of, translate it into plain English. because they just, it's, the doctors are doctors. So they just kind of talk about what, it's Pergover is this and something that, and like that means, this and this means that. And sometimes after the meeting, we just sit for a bit and I explain a bit more what the doctor was trying to say and what will be the next steps. I think it's really important to break it down into steps so it's not that overwhelming. Just, okay, we'll focus on this. That's the first step. You don't have to worry about anything else and just take it step by step. But yeah, it is overwhelming.
Definitely.
So yeah. Yeah, so exactly. We didn't know a lot about fertility.
Yeah.
And you also answered another question that I had is where did you go for, the information about fertility and infertility? So you
Yeah.
said podcasts, right? You a lot and
Yeah. Yeah, and that was helpful for me because, I was commuting back and forth to work. I could download a podcast and just listen, on my way, and that just helped me to understand the different types of stories that were out there. I think the biggest thing maybe is it just helped me set my expectations because I think another big misconception that I definitely had going into treatment was, I kind of thought, well, IVF, it just works, right? Like it's
That's a
just
given, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and of course, all of us know who've been in it. That's not the case, right? It could, even the very best shot, now is maybe 65% if like everything is totally optimized. So it doesn't necessarily work. So that was a big thing that at least hearing those stories set me up to have, I think, more realistic expectations and not just saying, okay, we're going into this and we're guaranteed to work because we know that's not necessarily the case. And we, like so many people had ups and downs in our journey, right? Had two miscarriages along the way and to pursue additional testing to figure out, kind of beyond just the normal what was going on. So it was hard to go through those things, but at least I kind of knew once we got to actually meeting with the fertility clinic that this is not necessarily a 100% guarantee. Yeah.
Definitely. And were there like any other kind of misconceptions or ideas that you had before you started on, this journey that kind of, didn't turn out the way you think it was, like for the better, for the worse?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first was just, as you said earlier, how common it is to go through infertility. As we opened up more with friends and family, we ended up hearing from so many people and neighbors who we had no idea
Yeah.
we had chatted with dozens or hundreds of times in our life and had no idea that they'd been in the same position. So it was really surprising, I think, to know like, oh, these people we thought we knew so well had been through this really hard thing. So it helped us feel less alone, but of course it was also hard to know that, my gosh, there's so many people around who've been in the same position. And then the other big thing I think was really surprising and especially important for men is to know that, current research suggests that anywhere from up to 40 to 50% of infertility cases may have some amount of contributing factor from male factor. So that's really important to know. And so I always say that the most important thing male partners need to do is you need to make sure you're getting your semen analysis as soon as you, and your partner think that there may be something going on with your fertility, because there's always that very good chance that it could be, you might have a lower sperm count than normal. And, as scary as it can be to go under the microscope, so to speak, knowledge is power. And if you don't know that there's something going on, or maybe you have lower sperm count or something, there's nothing you can do about it until you find that out. So it's really important to get that information, and really important then to know, there may be some options to provide treatment to help with that, but you can't know if you don't know. So make sure you get that semen analysis.
That's true. It might feel, awkward sometimes, and I know that some male patients do have, issues with doing this part. Some clinics offer that they can they can bring a sample with them from home. That is also a possibility. Usually involves a consent form, and it really requires a maximum of 1 hour to arrive to the clinic, and you have to keep the sample warm. But it is a possibility and might help some guys, right?
Yeah.
And what is really, really important is to get the result on paper. Yeah, to get it on paper, not to be just told it's fine.
Hmm.
I had one example. I had a client, and he was told that his semen analysis was fine. And so we asked for the document. He provided it, and it was not fine. Yeah, it really
Mm.
wasn't. And you can find information about the norm in, which is according to the World Health Organization, right? It's quite accessible. You can find it, and it's best if you're unsure to ask another specialist. But you can basically send it to a fertility clinic like ours, right? If you just don't, we wouldn't turn you down. Even, I don't know, we don't have to be our client, but if you just send it, I have the semen analysis, I'm not sure what really is the result. I would run it by the lab and we would tell you. Yeah, so you can really reach out. You don't have to, if you're not sure, just don't stay with the first opinion. And it's really important to have it on paper. And when a clinic tells you that the semen analysis results will be in 2 months, it's not true. It's done on the same day, or it should be done on the same day. Otherwise, they will have to freeze it, right? Freeze the sample, thaw the sample, and then do the semen analysis on that. And that is sometimes done when the clinics are small, and they don't have an in-house embryologist or andrologist, right?
Mm.
Andrologists are the specialists for male fertility and infertility. So, for example, our clinic, we have an embryology lab and we have an andrology lab where we have a specialist. He's the only guy there, and he does the sperm samples. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's really important to. I think that's a good idea for a post. The
Yeah.
difference between an andrology and an embryology lab. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
If I would be searching for a clinic, I would like a clinic that has both, an in-house, not like, if it's possible, because some clinics really don't have in-house embryologists, and I have no idea how they do it. And
Yep.
the number of embryologists should be the same or higher as this number of doctors.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a really important part. If you have if you have like 5 doctors and one embryologist, that's that's not going to work. It doesn't work. Yeah, and then there's so many delays. It's just like something that I thought of. It's quite important. I would, yeah, think about that.
It is. Yeah,
Oh,
it is kind of they're the unsung heroes of the process. I feel like sometimes they're always behind the curtain, but what they're doing is so amazing. And having a really high quality lab can make all the difference. So it's really important. So it's good to shout out those embryologists and
and
other
yes,
folks.
yes, exactly. Um, and the andrologists, really, they're amazing because they are specialists. They really know what to do. So we have our andrologist. He really takes time to find the 2, 3 sperm cells in the whole, uh,
Hmm.
in the whole sample, even though like another clinic would maybe say there's just nothing there, right?
Yeah.
So they really take their time. And I had one couple, and he had a very, very poor sperm sample. She had, I think, 8 eggs collected, and it took the embryology and andrology team, it took them for over 3 hours
Mm.
to find 8 living mature sperm cells in the
Wow.
samples that he provided. Yeah. And they have 2 kids now. So
Wow.
it worked,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Amazing.
So it definitely worked. So it is possible, but it's really good to when uh, also struggling with male infertility, to really find a good clinic with a good lab
Yeah.
and experienced doctors and embryologists and andrologists, ideally, really, to have an andrology lab. That's
Yeah.
really important. So, and I was wondering, like, at what point have you decided to write your book? Was it,
Yeah, yeah. So it was really, it was about a year ago. At that time, Eliza, our first daughter, had just turned 1, and we were starting to think about going back to hopefully have a second child. And I started to just do a little bit of writing about our story. And at first, I think it was just kind of for me, for Olivia, maybe something I thought, hopefully our kids can look at one day. But the more and more that I wrote, I really realized very quickly that I had the makings of a book on my hands, because I started with that piece, which was just writing down our story, which I think is so important. The more that we share our stories, and especially from the male perspective, which is you don't hear as much in the fertility community, I thought was really important. So as I kind of continued to write, I realized there were a couple of other pieces I could add to the book. So the first part is just our story, really raw, open, about every step of the way that we went through, because we really went through the entire process of, from timed intercourse to medicated intercourse to IVF to unfortunately some losses to finally getting things figured out. So it tells the whole story over the course of the book, and then paired with each step of the story, I provide just some basic information about diagnoses, about the causes of infertility, about the testing you should be looking at, about the different hormones and the roles they play. And again, I try to kind of draw on that, my former life as a teacher, to really explain it in just the clearest possible language. So, it's not an in-depth research article. It's just aimed to arm people with really basic information so that you can be well prepared to engage in conversations with your partner, with your medical team, which I think is so important. So it's just chock full of that, really clear explanations. And then the third piece, which I felt was really important, was there's a lot in the book of tips, strategies, and really unpacking what are the different emotional, things you're going to go through during fertility treatment, both you as yourself, as the male partner, but then with your partner in a couple as well, because it puts a lot of strain both on you personally, it puts a lot of strain on couples. We definitely know how stressful it can be. And so I really tried to walk through and say, what are the things you might be feeling at various steps in the process? And then how can you kind of help yourself manage and support yourself through those feelings? And then how can you really work with your partner and be supportive? Because I think that's so important too. So I really tried to put all of those things together, to really provide a kind of a comprehensive overview that can just help people. And I always say, it's called the IVF DAD, but it's not just about IVF. It includes information about IUIs and timed intercourse and kilometer letrozole cycles, things like that, donor eggs and sperm, even adoption, fostering, which can be family building options as well, and then the IVF dad. But again, not just for men. I've heard from so many women and couples who are reading the book together, and that's really what I want it to be. I want it something that can help spark conversation, because I know one thing I hear so often, from men and women going through this is, my partner, usually referring to the man, is just doesn't open up about his feelings. He won't talk about what he's feeling. He won't talk about how he's thinking about everything that we're going through. And so I hope that by kind of reading the book, hearing the tips and strategies, it can just open up some lines of communication, because that's the biggest and most important thing for a couple during something as hard as going through fertility treatment. Is you have to really remain in touch, really keep communicating with each other, and really keep supporting each other, because that's how you can get through a really hard time.
yeah, as I said at the beginning, I've read it, and it's really great. It's readable, it's interesting. The facts are in plain English, the way I would hopefully I explain things, even though I usually have a tendency to over explain. Yeah, I'm horrible like that. But yeah, it covers everything, and exactly, not just for guys. It would be ideally exactly couples to read it together. And yeah, it's you've done an amazing job, really. So
Oh, thank you so
so
much. Well, I just really hope it will help some people out there. folks can find the book on Amazon. It's available worldwide. You can also get links on my website, which is www.theivfdad.com. And I should also say, it's obviously just a charity based in the States, but one really important thing about the book is that a third of all of the proceeds go to the Stork Foundation, which is a foundation in the States which makes grants to help families afford the cost of fertility treatment, which we know can be just so overwhelming. So that's a really important part of the mission too, is to give back in some small way, because we've, despite going through a very long journey, we've been really fortunate. We're thankful every day for all the medical professionals and embryologists and people in the lab and friends and family who've been supportive of us. We've just been very fortunate, and so hope in some small way that we can kind of give back from the proceeds of the book. So yeah.
Yeah, that's another great thing, really. Yeah. So, and I'm also, hoping to help a little bit with the finances if they would decide to come to Prague.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. But yeah. Well,
Well, I'm excited. If people have enjoyed this video, you'll also watch a video of the other conversation that Blanca and I had around things you should know about IVF abroad, because I think that'll give a great overview. So everybody should be lucky enough to have a guide like Blanca to walk you through the entire process, because she's incredibly knowledgeable and helpful and personable, and can make, again, a really hard process seem a little bit easier, which is all we can do, right?
Exactly. And my recommendation is for everyone who is at the beginning of the journey, or even if they're not in this journey but have know someone that is going through fertility, to check out your book, because we didn't. It's the issues that people, of course, are struggling with infertility are the comments, are the that there's not that much knowledge out there. So even if someone is not going through this journey, it would be a helpful book just to get an idea what it's like, how overwhelming it is, and how exhausting this journey can be. So to be a better friend or a better sister, and so on. So we could read it. So I would recommend it to everyone. So that's it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I know too, if you're out there watching and you're kind of early in your journey, you're just overwhelmed. Hopefully, I think you can probably see from this video, me and Blanca are pretty easy to talk to people. Feel free to, shoot either one of us a message. We're happy to kind of help you in any way. But yeah, it's been so great to talk, and I really appreciate it. It's nice to connect, Blanca. So thank you so much.
It was great. It was great, Keegan. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Bye.